Cairo, Egypt. Chichen Itza. Teotihuacan. Indonesia. Yucatan. Peru. Pyramids and megalithic structures are found all over the world. But who constructed them? Why were they built? What's more remarkable is their construction and technology are virtually identical. How is it that civilizations around the world who supposedly had no contact with one another decided to build massive structures with huge megalithic stones all around the same time period and used basically the same techniques? If we go by what we were taught in school, intercontinental travel is a couple thousand years too early. Yet megalithic construction is being carried out on a global scale. How can every civilization get the same idea? Something just doesn't add up in our historical account. Why are historians and archaeologists not talking about this? And why are they, and for that matter, our government hiding and deliberately covering up our true history? What is the real story of our past? And who constructed these incredible structures? Let's take a look at some of these sites and see what makes them so unique. Cairo, Egypt. The Giza Complex. Many archaeologists and historians still believe and hold to the theory that the dynastic Egyptians constructed these monuments and that they were tombs for their kings. But just for the record, not one single pyramid has there been found a mummy or remains of any in all the pyramids in Egypt. And you can check that out. The pyramids are much older than most archaeologists admit, thousands of years older. I believe they were constructed during the pre-Adamic period or before the flood of Noah. Contrary to what most would think, and we are finding this out all over, is the deeper down in excavations you go, the more technologically advanced the construction is. This is completely opposite of everything we were taught in school, yet nobody says anything. These structures were definitely not tombs. They are built with absolute precision. They have a machine-like quality to them, not an artistic one. I personally believe there's some sort of machine, whether to generate power of some kind, whether it's physical, electricity, microwave, or metaphysical. I think they were a dimensional doorway, like a time machine, but instead of transporting somebody or something back and forth through time, it moved them through dimensions. Or it did both. It had multi-purpose. Look at the construction. The stones are cut so precise that a piece of paper couldn't fit between the seams. Precision core drill bit made by a power tool of some kind. In most cases, the stone being worked is much harder than the tool itself, which makes it impossible to carve. What's even more astonishing is we don't have the know-how or the capability to build or assemble these incredible wonders. Here are several examples of high technology used. Take a look at all these pictures and look for yourself. Primitive man did not make these, especially with copper chisels and wooden hammers, or stones beating on them. I mean, do they honestly expect you to believe that that's how they were made? Look at the precision. Look at the tooling on all these. These are stone. These are the hardest stone next to diamond, and yet they're the angles, the curves, the precision cutting, the core drilling. Impossible for them to make. Yet they want you to believe and convince you that they made these. There are stones in places like Baalbek, Lebanon, and the Temple of Jupiter, weighing in at over 1,400 tons. Modern cranes of today cannot lift, yet place with pinpoint precision these gargantuan stones. Sometimes in places so remote and isolated, it's impossible to reach except by foot. At some sites, the quarries are many kilometers away from the building site, like Aswan in Egypt, over 500 miles away. How is it possible that these primitive people were capable of moving them when they didn't even have the wheel, and many of the sites, no trees either for rolling? These ancient sites are found on every continent in the world, and with similar construction techniques. How is that possible? We are told ancient man could not cross the oceans and communicate with each other. In some instances, the giant stones look like they were softened like clay, then set into place. There are carvings so precise that there's less than 1/100th of an inch of tolerance between each of the figure's sides. This feat is impossible by hand. Look at the massive size of this obelisk and tell me ancient man made and moved these. And this is in Aswan, and that would be a 500-mile trek to bring that obelisk to its destination. Just plain common sense tells you it is not possible. Archaeologists tell you they hammered them with another rock. How stupid do they think we are? So how is it possible an ancient culture was capable of incorporating such advanced engineering? And this is just the pyramids of Egypt we're taking a close look at. All the megalithic structures around the world were built with just as much, if not more, mathematical and engineering complexity, far beyond what they would have been capable of. Take, for instance, the Pyramid of the Sun in Tiwanaku, Mexico. Recently, archaeologists discovered mica-lined shafts and chambers. Now, mica, besides being a very unusual and rare stone, carries some unique properties. First, it's an excellent insulator for electricity. The second is also an insulator, but for radiation. What were they doing? Here's a short clip I'd like you guys to watch.
Teotihuacan is without doubt one of the most mysterious places within the Americas, or possibly on Earth. While the incredible complexity and architectural precision has baffled archaeologists for decades, there is a far more perplexing mystery specifically surrounding the pyramids within this ancient place. The presence of mica, a powerful radioactive insulator, is perhaps one of the biggest enigmas of these great ancient structures. Established or quite possibly re-inhabited around 100 BC until its fall between the 7th and 8th centuries, Teotihuacan was one of the largest cities in the ancient world, with over 150,000 inhabitants at its peak. According to archaeologists, the advanced design of Teotihuacan suggests that ancient builders had advanced knowledge not only of architecture, but of complex mathematical and astronomical sciences. Additionally, one of the more intriguing characteristics differentiating it from many other ancient sites is the fact that from the air, Teotihuacan strangely resembles that of a modern computer circuit board. Curiously, when Hernan Cortes and his men conquered the Aztec Empire in the 16th century, they asked the natives who had built such a colossal city. The Aztec replied, "We were not the builders of Teotihuacan. This city was built by the Quinanatzin, a race of giants who came here from the heavens in the times of the second sun." The Aztecs were in fact the ancient civilization that named the place Teotihuacan, yet they did not know the original name for the city. The pyramids had remained buried, hidden under several meters of vegetation for unknown millennia, only rediscovered within the last century. Then in 1906, on the 5th deck of the Pyramid of the Sun, a thick layer of laminated mica covering an enormous area was unearthed. At that time in 1906, mica was an invaluable resource, highly priced on the world market. It is used for the construction of capacitors and is considered an incredibly efficient electrical and thermal insulator, which has a melting point of over 1,100 degrees Celsius. Most of the mica found in 1906 at Teotihuacan was unfortunately robbed out, subsequently sold at a great price to resource tycoons. Fortunately, however, not all the mica has disappeared from Teotihuacan. Today, there are still a few places where you can find the original mica, carefully laid within the pyramid's body. It seems for some mysterious reason, the unknown builders of this great ancient city managed to extract and transport this mica from far away. According to tests carried out by the Viking Foundation, discoverer of one of the rooms coated with mica, this valuable material has an unmistakable signature, allowing us to tell exactly where in the world it had originally been extracted. It was discovered that it had come from a region located more than 3,200 kilometers away within Brazil. This in of itself is an enigma. The only real purpose, it would seem, for the use of such an exotic material is for the management of electrical currents, a theory, thankfully, more and more talented minds are beginning to look at seriously. As a result, we may finally unravel one of the greatest mysteries still plaguing the modern man. What were the pyramids built for?
I believe not only were these structures some sort of machine or advanced calendar, map of the heavens, whatever the mechanical purpose, but more importantly, I believe they are altars, stargates, set up for demonic strongholds in those regions. I recently watched a video by a YouTuber who goes by the name of Shaking My Head, and he was showing how the Hoover Dam is a possible Stargate/altar. What was so unusual, besides being a Freemason Illuminati construction, was the very unusual symbolism throughout the site. Everywhere there were murals, floor tiles, artwork of a particular star in the Pleiades star system. There are very large fallen angel statues and other strange symbols that don't fit as iconography for a hydroelectric power plant. He points out that not only ancient cultures were setting up demonic strongholds around the world, but even in modernity, it continues. Another interesting place is the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York. I'm not going into it too much, but I wanted to show you what's carved on the pillars. Take a close look. The Twin Towers falling. The Apocalypse of New York, or New Babylon. The birth of the Antichrist. What are these images doing on a church? And who commissioned them? And for what purpose? The whole reason for showing you these modern structures was just to let you know that it hasn't stopped. We're still building megalithic structures to the fallen one. I'll get more into current times in an upcoming video, but we need to understand our past before we can move forward. Who built these structures? I believe they were the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, the Watchers, and their offspring, the Nephilim. Who were these creatures? They were the fallen angels. In the book of Genesis, during the time of Jared, who is the father of Enoch, the sixth generation of Adam, and the great-great-great-grandfather of Noah, there came down from heaven a group of fallen angels. In the book of Enoch, he gets a bit more detailed. He describes a group of fallen angels, 200 in all. They were called the Watchers. A group of angels God put in charge to watch over the daily activities of humanity on earth. These angels decided to leave their place in heaven, came down on top of Mount Hermon in southern Lebanon, also spoken in the Bible by Jude. And the angels, which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day, Jude 1:6, and which it still carries the name today. Here's a little side note. It's also where the Temple of Jupiter is, and there was also a place called Keter Antar, the sanctuary of Baal, with gates in front of a cave entrance which they said led to the abyss. This is also where Jesus told Peter, "And I say unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Matthew 16:8. Coincidence? It's also where Jesus and the Transfiguration took place. Strangely, the United Nations built an outpost on top of Mount Hermon. Why would they do that? There's nothing up there. Or is there? Back to what I was explaining. The Watchers decided to make a pact with each other and commit an unforgivable sin on God and humanity. They decided to have relations with the human women of the earth. This is where we hear for the first time the term Nephilim. Who are the Nephilim? The Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, the fallen angels, and the daughters of men before the deluge. According to Genesis 6:4 of the Bible and to Numbers 13:33, they inhabited Canaan at the time of the Israelite conquest of Canaan. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God, the watchers, saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all whom they chose. There were giants on the earth in those days, and afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. These are the engineers of all the structures, the fallen angels and their offspring, the Nephilim. These are the ones with all the knowledge that taught mankind or helped them, or whatever the case may be, in place that they would be worshipped like gods. And those are your stone builders.